Archer,
Yes.
Carpenter,
Yes.
McElroy. Yeah. Salisbury,
Yes.
and McKee.
Yes. Moving on, Dan, you're up.
Okay, hey, morning, guys. I wanted to just kind of start, Josh and Ed and everyone, kind of reviewing where we are today with the spreadsheet that you provided. I shared this information earlier with the board, and basically we talked about two options. The option of all in at 1.234760. And then an option that we discussed of making some modifications that would bring us down to 1,056,000. I just thought, Josh and Ed, I will turn it over to you. I will tell you this, that we all are in shock of the price and have been, continue to be. But I think this is another way to look at it. Obviously, whichever route we go, this is a significant investment. But the all-in comes at a cost of $1,200 per student annually. And over a 15-year period, that price amortizes out to $80 per student. So when you look at it, this is a 15-year investment, it's 1,000 kids in the building, the all-in comes at a cost of $80 per student per year. So I think we have to understand it's a one-shot deal, and it's done over a 15-year period, not an annual period. So when you look at it that way, I just wanted to give this opportunity to open up to the board any design questions they may have. I clearly have said I am not a playground expert. I knew that when it was first presented to us, we could not do this without proper site work and drainage, and that's why we enlisted the help of you guys, and that's where our most significant investment is here, to the tune of $600,000+. So I'll open it up for the board. Any questions that Josh and or Ed may ask specifics?
Yeah, Josh, before you get started, just a couple of things that we've done since Josh and all of the board and I have met. And one of them was to pick up all the water from the building roof that is within the area of the playground space, you know, connecting all the new downspouts and all of that sort of thing and bring it into the new storm system. What that does is, you know, that's a fairly large space of roof for capturing, which is a great thing. One of the things to see this project as really a site improvement project that has a playground with it, because that's really one of the pieces that, or the major piece that's driving the design and the cost was engineering all of that work. So in picking up the roof, the storm system itself kind of took a couple steps above where we had originally thought it would be. So that's just one of the things that, through conversations of going over the final design to make sure that we were picking up things that we needed to, so this is a project that's going to be 20, 25 years before, you know, there's some other things that need to be done.
So, what size pipe did you upgrade to, or is that because your flow now is going to be a lot bigger? What did you upgrade to that? What was your changes how much did that add to the job, I guess?
So I don't know the specifics of the actual cost of the difference in pipe, but we went from 12-inch plastic pipe to, in some cases, a 24-inch concrete pipe. So there's a significant difference in how those, not just the cost of the material, but how all that stuff is put together and constructed. Some of the catch basins and the depth of some of the catch basins work more like manholes than just catch basins. So there was a lot more engineering pieces to put that kind of a system together.
Trinda, can I take control of the screen?
Yes.
I wonder how deep he went. If he's dropping man. Yeah, that's big. But if he happened to float to the roofs, that kind of water.
Well, soon as drain it all to the creek.
Yeah, that's.
Did I just say catch basin though?
Yeah, hang on, folks. If I can get control of the screen, I can show you a drawing that'll explain everything to you. For some reason, it's still showing me that Trend is still presenting.
Stop sharing, Trent. Let's see where it says stop sharing in the blue.
Down at the bottom.
Down at the bottom. There you go.
There we go.
Now, yeah.
So, can you guys see my screen now?
Yes.
Okay, great. So this is the C-130 utility sheet. And so to Ed's point, what part of the project is doing is picking up all of the storm all the way down what would be sort of the east side of the building and bringing it around, taking it out to the creek, and then also picking up from the courtyard down through here. Now, any of you that have been out on that site know that we get flooding in the kindergarten play area and then down along the edge of the building, right? We've got all this area here that tends to sit with water. And so just to kind of show you where we're at, we start with a 12-inch pipe, and you can see we're picking up downspouts off the building and bringing those out to catch basins. Then we're up to 15 inches here down through this area. Now we're at 18 inches as we're picking up more of the water around the building. Then we're picking up these downspouts off of the north face of the building. We're out to 18 inches, and then working our way down the hill. We're still at 18 inches, picking up from additional downspouts, and then picking up the water out of the courtyard and taking the water out of the courtyard and down the hill. And so that's a 12-inch pipe coming out of the courtyard and an 18-inch pipe coming down to the head wall down by the creek. And so, from an infrastructure standpoint, not only are we doing all the play structure and all the play surfacing and the sidewalks and everything and pavement that Ed's described, but we're also doing a pretty substantial site infrastructure here that's going to put you in place, in a good situation for the future. So that's definitely part of the cost. Now, we haven't gotten a breakdown from the contractors of the schedule of values that would spell that out to us, but we can do that, and we will be able to show that to you once we get the low bid contractor, once we get their information.
Hey, Josh, what size, that's a pretty good sized pipe to carry. What kind of flow are you anticipating? Is that kind of a worst case scenario?
We would have to talk with Kleinders. They were our civil engineer that we used on this. So unfortunately, I probably don't have that information at my fingertips, but we can definitely ask Kleinders to give us some information on that. But, they basically looked at how much water, we're taking the water from the hillside too, right? So we've got all this water that's coming down the hillside, and that's what's sitting low in your building. So, they're anticipating a pretty big watershed there.
And where does it transfer to your concrete at? Do you know that, Josh?
Let me take a look in here. Ed, do you know for sure where they transfer over?
No.
I was saying probably more than 18 inches.
That's awesome. And why was you going to, was it because of the depth of the pipe, or why did we convert to concrete?
Probably the size and the depth.
I'm guessing size. Usually
and how
that's
it's
the driver.
connecting to the catch basins. You can see some of the catch basins get pretty deep.
Yeah.
And the sun.
Is there anything at the end of the outlet for that water to hit on it versus just washing out that stream bank?
There's a head wall there where it outlets.
Yeah, and they've also got riprap down there. They're showing riprap down at the bottom.
Yep.
I don't see that.
He just had it on the screen.
Can you show that again?
Yeah, I was looking to see if they've usually got a little riprap detail. I was looking to see if they've got that shown on the drawings. I'm not seeing it there.
No, they usually just spell it out in the notes now.
Yeah. So here's the head wall and here's the riprap, and you can see they're pulling back away from the face of the creek and outletting right in front of it. Right. So here's the basin of the creek. And they're outletting back here.
That'll also cut back on your backflow.
Basically the same location as where that swale cuts down the hill.
Right.
I just worry more about that backflow than washing out that stream bank and causing issues later.
That's it.
Any other questions for him?
As far as excavation,
Josh, you got anything else you want to add?
I would just say, a couple of things. I've had a chance to talk with both of the bidders, Sergeant and Wolf Creek. I've known their names. Obviously we knew Wolf Creek was doing work down at Warren Local, and so we've heard their name in the community. Was familiar with Sergeant's name, but didn't really know much about them. But I had a chance to do a post-bid review with both of them, and I feel confident that both of them are qualified to do the work. Most of the work that we're asking this contractor to provide is site work, and paving. And so I'm pretty confident, obviously, that these guys have the capability to do that. I was encouraged in talking with them. They both are eager to get started right away. I think they both realize that, the quicker they can get started, hopefully they can sort of eliminate some weather issues if we do run into some more wet, if we have a wet summer like we did last year. They want to try and get in as quickly as they can and get started. But I feel like both of them had good understanding of the bid documents. They both put together a pretty tight bid. When you look at the, we sort of took the bridge out of the conversation just because we knew that the bridge, the manufacturer that we're using for the base design on the bridge didn't participate in putting together a number. And so when you take the bridge out of the equation,
You can't have questions. When the teacher's done talking, we're not repeating.
Got you.
You're worse than Zoom with fourth graders.
when you take a look at their base bids, $648 for Sergeant and $659 for Wolf Creek, they're pretty tight. And then when you take a look at their alternate pricing, when you take the bridge out of the equation, they're even tighter. That tells me that they both understood what they were bidding and that they, both were looking at the same things and put numbers together the same way. So we felt like the bids were good. And I feel like both of the contractors are capable of doing the work. It really just comes down to what you guys want to do as far as the budget is concerned. Because obviously,
Okay, so
yeah, go ahead, please.
So let me stop you there, because we have a resolution, but we have two pieces and parts. The first one is the bidding portion of this. So does anybody have any questions about the alternates, or are you considering eliminating any of the alternates?
yes.
Constance, we need to.
Okay, so Lori asked the question. Okay, so there are three alternates listed. Pre-K accessories, boil down to the raised deck over here that can also serve as an outdoor space, classroom space. There's raised planters, and there's also work tables. You can see that. Go ahead. If you want to talk through each alternate, Ed, that might be helpful.
Yeah, so it's all in the PKK area. So there's a raised deck that actually will allow them to step up on and walk over to where the pine trees are. One of the early conversations were that the children love going over to those trees, but it's always been an issue because they have to walk through the mud to get there. And it serves as a kind of classroom gathering space, a stage. It offers a lot of different kind of things going on. The raised planters are right along the sidewalk as you walk into the yard. And they're really simple cedar raised planters. There's also a couple of tables.
We got that up for.
Kind of one thing.
You guys, you get to pick?
So,
Why do we need them?
Why do we need them? So the whole yard piece is a lot to do with, there's not very many things that they do inside that they can't do outside. So it's really a school within a school. So the raised beds are a lot about the science opportunities they have. There's a couple of tables there as well where they can work on. So it's bringing school outside is really the purpose, a major purpose of everything we're doing.
Thanks.
The deck fits into that as well.
I see what you're saying, Ed. I actually, I don't have a problem with it. I mean, I know we say, yeah, we can get them down to the farm, but logistically, I can't imagine. I mean, at times, if there's lessons planned and there's specific activities, but I think the convenience of having this right outside, very close, makes sense, especially if I have 20-some 3- and 4-year-olds.
Correct.
I think we're just planners. What about, I mean, what's the cost of the planners?
We don't have that broken out specifically. I usually budget a few $100s a piece. They're stick built.
$100. Yeah.
So I just, again, you have the opportunity to pick and choose, but the reality of it is this is, and you guys laugh, it is not just a playground. And it was an opportunity. So if we invested in ag and we've got the farm, which we hope everyone can access, we also hope to have some access to some of those things for our preschool and some of those science things that we need to get outside and do.
I agree.
The next thing's that imagination house. What is the cost of difference?
What's the question?
The imagination house, one of them was 12,000, the other one was 21. What's the difference?
Yeah, the difference in that, I don't know. I would think the 21 was more about where I thought it would land.
And just in going through the post-bid review, I think Wolf Creek's just throwing more people at it, truthfully. I think they're just planning on throwing more people at it and getting it done faster. I asked the same question.
So there was a specification in the plans that both bidders had access to, and one company felt like they could meet the spec at 12, the other one wanted to do it at 21.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
It's that entire sheet.
What kind of timeline? Did they submit a timeline as far as?
We dictated a timeline to them. That's part of the bid. So we have them finishing up the week of August 14th. And then prior to that, by July 15th, they have to have the playground areas done, subgraded, so that the playground contractor can get in there and start installing equipment. And both of the contractors agreed to that.
So these alternates, this is just what we can pick and choose.
Well, I mean, so that's part of the bid package. We're not talking about playground equipment yet, and we're not talking about servicing. We're going to talk about that in part 2. This will determine, your choices here is going to determine who actually receives this bid. Is it going to be Surgent? Is it going to be Wolf Creek? Quite honestly, if you choose to accept all the alternates, Wolf Creek is going to get the bid. If you choose to pick and choose, we'll have to add up, but it's likely that if you said no alternates, Surgent is your low bidder.
Has anybody dealt with him, have you dealt with Wolf Creek or Surgeon, either one, Dan?
No, I think they both are very reputable and I don't know as much about Surgeon, but I know Wolf Creek right now is a pretty big operation. They're doing the school construction project at Warren Local. They just completed some work. Both of these companies have noble local ties, and noble local graduates will be part of the process.
Surgeon does a lot of work up at Colgate almost.
Okay.
They got one crew that lives there.
Okay. I'd seen that before, I just didn't put it together.
Any questions about any of the alternates, any of them that you collectively want to strike?
The music thing out here, where's it gonna be set? Is it on the far side of the sidewalk?
No, it's a circumference. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm backing up so I can show the whole building, show you where it's at. It's that lower entry that gets you into the, that we use to go into the middle school, to the gym.
Okay.
I think this was the coolest of the alternates.
So.
Constance, you cut out on us. Can you say that again?
I just thought this was the coolest out of all the alternates, but I support all of them.
Same here.
Yeah, we call that the music patio. However, if you watch who uses that space most often right now, it's every class but music.
So does that affect anything with future plans of a possible gym like we had talked before, or how would that, Josh, as far as in your design, how much room does that take on the, what would that be, east side, west side? That's north, east side of the.
Quite honestly, we haven't really looked at what additions do on the middle school. We really haven't gotten into detail on that.
Okay.
All right, Dan.
Okay, any questions on the alternates? Any further discussion?
Can I ask a question about the retaining walls? At what point are they at the highest?
The retaining wall around the music patio is 18 inches. Ed, would you like to look at the design, the overall design, kind of the aerial view, and talk about where the retaining walls are, the height of such wall? Just kind of cover the stone, the masonry work there for a little bit.
I had just.
Yeah, if you can zoom in onto that location, Josh. So Josh has the pointer. He just drew one of the retaining walls in red right there. And it ends up being about 3 feet tall at its highest point. So we have a fence along the top side of it.
I'm just have kids.
And then he just drew the second one, and I believe its highest point is 3.5, 4 feet at the corner. And we actually added a fence along that behind the wall and along the full north end of the play space right there. And I forget what height. I think it was 8 feet or 10 feet of fence right there, because there's a basketball court that backs right up against it. So trying to, so the balls don't go flying every time they miss a shot.
We don't miss down here, Shanda.
So those are the two important retaining walls. There's actually two if you move down to the entrance into the kindergarten room or door, Josh. So we're putting new sidewalk also all the way up to the door, the kindergarten door. And there's a little retaining wall that runs Josh's drawing right now. So that is also, there's some slope in there and all that sort of thing. We want to make sure we clean up, and so it's kind of muddy right now. But then it's going to be seat height, so about 18 inches. So it also allows the teachers a place to line everybody up before they go in, kind of thing. And when they're just out there playing, if they want to sit down, and just another double purpose kind of item. So those also, a couple of the pieces that were added since our last meeting.
And there's also an 18-inch wall around the music patio area to double as seating as well.
Correct. But it's not a retaining wall, it's just a freestanding piece.
Right. More? Questions? Do we want to talk briefly about the surfacing? And so I'm going to try to help bring this together. So on the bid side and the surface work, are we all in favor of proceeding? Do you want to remove any alternates? Okay, so what I'm hearing is, as far as the competitive bid work, we are going to accept the bid and all alternates minus the bridge. Now, I want to speak on behalf, we do know that we need a bridge there. We do not want to entertain it at that price, and we believe that we'll continue to work and look for alternatives as we get into this project. So ultimately, there would be a bridge likely that would go over the Little League field, and then in the future, there would be one at the far end of the nature trail that would lead to the farm. So, do you want to take a vote on that piece now, or you want to put it all, you want to go and move to playground equipment? Might as well go to playground equipment.
Yeah, let's do it all under one vote.
Let's talk about playground equipment and surfacing.
The volleyball is not considered part of the alternate, right?
Now that's in this
That's
discussion.
in the equipment /
What are we doing with the equipment that's already there?
It goes away.
There's none of it can be resalvaged for somewhere else, donated or anything?
Not more than just the metal itself.
If we could donate that to Shauna, maybe up here.
That's what I was thinking. I didn't know if you take some of the swing sets and donate or not.
I was
I mean, the
just
swing set possibly could be, but they're of an age that I don't know how many more years they will have.
We just have to sign a waiver. That clears, right? I mean,
I guess we
check
could talk to
into it.
Kevin about it.
Yeah,
The
let's-
proper thing would
Yeah, go ahead.
be to.
So if there's any pieces that,
Then possibly put them on a bid, on our other.
Outside out of mine.
Yeah, we'll talk about disposal of that later. I mean, we have a demolition plan here. We can talk about what the board would want to do with the equipment. That doesn't have to be part of this.
right, and if
talk
there's
about-
somewhere, with a local institution that may be able to use them, then absolutely, I would think that you could allow them to come take them.
Did they have a bid to salvage it, or?
They do not.
Yeah, their bid is for full demo. So they may have some cost in there for anticipating that they're going to get some money for the steel. So we'd have to have a conversation with them about what the offset is for what they were going to do for, taking the scrap versus the amount of time it's going to take them to get it out of the ground, get it into a truck, and truck it to wherever they were going to truck it to.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I'd like to see that. Yeah, I'll talk about it.
Questions about equipment or surfacing?
I support the surfacing of all areas.
Yeah, that's the road, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's the warranty on that surfacing?
Port in place, surfacing warranty. We talked about lifespan of that being 15 years. You want to talk a little bit about the actual warranty and how that works, Ed?
Yeah, so it should be warranted for 10 years. Usually lifespan is at least 15. And there may be some small little repairs that need to get done. That really comes down to how the type of use you actually get on it. And one of the good things about just having a single person doing all the work, then you're going to have one person to call whenever there's a problem, whether it's equipment or surfacing or any of that. They actually service it as well. And it's really, in the long run, it actually becomes a better value than if you did mulch, because it doesn't get replaced. It doesn't have to be infilled every year and then replaced every couple of years. And upkeep is really to wash it with a hose.
Yeah, and along those lines, you just want to speak briefly about, we talked about an option where we would not do as much poured in place, and how we had the discussion how that becomes an obstacle for accessibility.
Yeah, there is an option which is not described in the drawings, but it could be, is to do a portion of poured in place and mulch in each of the play areas, which can be done, and we've done that many times. But what it doesn't do is allow anyone with mobility issues to actually maneuver on their own and participate as an individual without some assistance. So this again goes back to one of the really early conversations about inclusiveness, and that idea being that all individuals can interact in a way kind of as they feel in the moment without barriers. And mulch becomes one of those barriers of inclusive.
Gotcha. Other questions about equipment, surfacing?
Just to clarify on that surfacing, the way I understood it from our conversations is they're saying 15 years, but whenever it needs it, we do a resurface, which is
like a
not the
track.
full cost of a surfacing, but.
So,
Yeah,
I'm for accessibility, but is it, so the poured in place, is it just under the toys, or is it really in everything?
Just kind of sketch the areas and all that will be poured in place.
So underneath the swing set in the lower level, and then it's really underneath all the toys, basically. So the swing set, the elementary playground at the north end, Josh is drawing in the spaces.
Just the side. Where would the big toy be on there, Dan?
But in that search.
The circle there?
Yeah, where you just drew, and then also up here by the kindergarten.
Okay.
Yeah, and then all of the kindergarten play space as well.
So how will we connect those? Will there be sidewalks or?
That's a sidewalk.
Yeah, so there's sidewalks that go all the way around and connect everything. And all the sidewalks are accessible. So if I was confined to a wheelchair, I could get to everywhere on my own. Even down to the lower door.
What's the basketball court?
Asphalt.
That'll be asphalt.
Any other questions?
So this area is asphalt, that area is asphalt.
Is that where's the fence now? Right there?
Right here.
And it's staying.
With new fence.
And what do we decide on that? Is that gonna be the fence that we're just gonna put up one of those things that you can see in, or see out but not in?
We haven't talked about, we've talked about the fence, but we've not talked about putting windscreen on that fence yet.
And that'd be something we do on.
Yeah, it's not part of the project.
On that, deck overlooks the outside classroom, is that wood or was that the, poly?
Yes, it would.
That'd do the upgrade and do all of it, wouldn't you?
It's something we can talk to we would not make that change now. We would make that change after we bid and we work that with the contractor, and that would be outside the project. The discussion was about the wooden deck becoming poly, and I said that would be something that after we awarded this to a bidder, that we would work there is a $10,000 contingency in the project.
Yeah. And one thing and why I didn't really choose poly in the first place is because a lot of times when it's wet, it's really slippery.
Is that the same stuff that you told your kid? Ours isn't at all.
Anything else? Other questions? So, hearing none, we recommend that we proceed with all alternates in the project as presented.
Anything you need to say? You good?
According to your email, we have that kind of money that we can put towards this total cost.
The success and wellness money in portion. So, yeah, I think the new number I sent out was
288,000.
Yeah. Originally it was less than that, but some of the projects we had planned because of COVID-19, that stuff hasn't happened. So I was just saying, switch that from, we don't, summer school is actually gonna happen. So flip that and use it for program. And then, obviously there's a few things we don't know about for sure. We know the governor was highly supportive of continuing, beyond this biennium for the success and wellness money, but this has happened, will budget change? We just don't know. So that analysis is contingent upon, there being 4 years of success and wellness money. At the original amounts we planned, that's yet to be determined, but even so, it's not like we can't afford. When someone asks me, we can. It's priority. Is that a?
Well, this is original playground, right?
Oh, yeah.
So.
We can't. And very little to know, in my time, from 2010, we haven't spent anything. So I would say in 10 years, I can vouch for 10 years, we haven't done anything other than just little tiny minor repairs.
You have questions later, they won't be answered.
I think they changed from mulch to pea gravel or something like that, but there were no major expenses. Now, I can't speak for right before that time period, but, and.
Yeah.
I think you just have to think of how many kids actually use that playground on a daily basis.
Mm-hmm. Well, now you guys put in
And a few years ago.
And every child at some point in pre-K through 8 even touches the playground at some point, but you can't. So if you were going to try to allocate it across enrollment, you would say every child was impacted by that. Not the high school, obviously, but every elementary child.
Well, and this is a step too, as we tie in even the farm and the area up there with the nature trail. This is the beginning.
Yeah.
Now, does this enter us into contract with them, or we still have to go through that lingo on that? This is just to proceed, right?
Yeah, this will,
We would,
go ahead.
they'll draw up the contracts for us and,
Like, is there, they'll have the start date, end date, do they have any issues with materials or like a lead time, or with COVID going on? Is there liquidated
I think-
damages involved?
Yeah, we've already had all the, yeah, Guy, we've already had all those conversations with both the contractors. Neither one of them has any concern right now with COVID-19 issues. They're not seeing slowdown in either staffing or materials at this time. Nobody had any concerns about long lead time items. They'd like to get the head wall and the storm piping submittals in as soon as they can. And then with approval from the board today, we'll go ahead and issue a notice to proceed today, which will actually be a few days ahead of schedule of what we had anticipated. And unless there's any objection from the district, we would go ahead and tell them that they can have access to the site immediately.
Good. So it appears that Wolf Creek will be the bidder, right?
and then on the equipment, we're saying all in on all equipment.
So that means that we can't strike anything later, like we originally said.
On the equipment side, if we approve up to, and we'll say we approve the entire amount, we can continue if we wanted to on the equipment until the time it was ordered to take things out. But that equipment would need to be ordered no later than when?
Probably by the middle or end of next month.
Let's say May 15th.
Yeah.
Okay. We're not asking.
And just like real briefly, Dan and I were talking last night, I wanted to make sure everyone was clear that we are putting this together in one resolution, but it's two steps, because the equipment and the surfacing is like through operative.
Yeah.
And that's why, but the rest of it's under the bidding, so.
Everybody okay if I stop sharing?
Yeah.
Yes.
So
Thanks,
that's-
Thank you.
So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 7, 6, 0, 06.
Okay, tell me that one more time.
$1,234,760.06. So what
And
was
can you tell me
certain?
the Wolf Creek number all by itself?
Wolf Creek is 712,458.
Yeah, I like it. I broke it down to 15 here.
Yeah. Josh, do you have a total on those three alternates? This isn't a spreadsheet, so I can't sum them up.
63,176.
Even?
Yes.
It would be, Trenda, I'm sorry, the alternates actually total out to 53,170.
Yeah.
And then the difference of what the number Dan just gave you is the difference between Wolf Creek's base bid and Surgeon's base bid. But they still come out low. So Wolf Creek's base bid is that 659,288.
Yeah, one of the elements, which is good.
Okay, can you just read that to me so I don't have to flip back and forth? 659.
288. That's Wolf Creek's base bid. And then their alternates total 53,170.
And then the equipment total is 522.
522, 302 and 6 cents.
We're doing things.
Okay.
Continue and know it's about that. We get-
Can you see my screen?
No.
So we think or whatever. It's about that. See if there's a point something. But most of the stuff when the grandkids, the kids, those are, oh, that's nice.
Now, can you see my screen?
Yep.
Yes.
Just double check
659.
my,
Yep. 659,288 is correct. The 53,170 is correct. And the playground equipment 522,302.06 is correct. Yep.
in the total.
Yep. Everything looks correct.
Thank you.
Wait, was the equipment for surgeon, was it different?
Yeah, but with.
Or that's totally
That's
different?
totally separate, because that's part of the co-op, the cooperative.
Yeah,
Just
the
what was
purchasing term.
rate or whatever.
Yeah, that's not part of them particular.
Yeah, 'cause they just,
Their number's 780.
so would they put a markup on that?
Break it 712,458.
That just came straight
It's from-
out.
straight from
That's that
London.
price. Okay, good.
Game time, was it game time, Josh?
We did that too.
Yeah, that's correct. It's game time equipment, but the company that reps them is DWA Recreation.
Down there, they got 1,056.
Okay.
Why is this much different there?
Where are you looking?
Down there at the bottom of the grand table.
Yeah, that's okay, that was option B. That was taking away some of our surfacing. That's not that was kind of the two choices I gave you, option A,
Like,
option B. So-
worst, least.
Yeah, option B was presented with no alternates, and it was also not all poured in place. It was also some wood fiber.
Okay, that's,
So the least on this and this, and the least on this.
So we're waiting action on option A. Because you guys said you wanted all the alternates and you said you wanted to make no changes in surfacing and equipment at this time. So that puts us at option A at 1.234760.
Our portion equates to about 980,000. Well, minus the health and wellness, correct?
The purchase order will charge that portion to the wellness fund, and the rest of it will come from the PI fund.
That'll take 3 years to get from the health and wellness, right? Is that what we anticipate?
Well, it's actually 5 years, but 4 years of funding, 5 years of expenditures. Because that's how the leader in me was spread out over a 5-year project, right, Dan? And so I allocated 4 years of revenue over 5 years of expenses.
Okay.
Just to be kind of conservative, because we don't have any idea what's gonna happen in years 5 and 6.
Right.
We don't know what's gonna happen in 3 and 4,
Yeah, I
but
was gonna say.
we don't know what's gonna happen
Hell,
next
we
year.
ain't know what's gonna happen next week.
Yes.
So any more questions? Are we good?
Constance, do you hear us or have any questions?
I can. I do not have any further questions.
Constance, you good?
I'm good.
Motion.
Motion.
Archer, second.
Oh, I see, I've got a mistake here.
Oh, they gotta put her up top.
Okay,
First.
sorry about that.
No
Okay, who was-
Go ahead.
You gotta change now, too.
oh my goodness.
It's all right, copy and paste is a beautiful thing.
Order.
I do it all the time. It's
Sorry,
weird.
guys.
I get in so much trouble.
Okay, Archer,
Yes.
Carpenter,
Yes.
McElroy. Yes. Why did I jump? Well, okay, Scottsbury?
Yeah.
Trying to figure out why that's happening. There we go. McKee?
Yes.
Okay. Motion passed.
Get to work.
Are we gonna have an executive session or end?
Thank you, Ed. Thank you, Josh.
Thank you, everybody. We'll get a notice to proceed out today.
Thank you.
Thanks, Josh. Thanks, Ed.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Are you cutting me off for executive session or?
I don't need anything. No, we're good.
We're not gonna have one, Constance.
Okay. Motion to
So-
adjourn.
Yeah, so
Say,
Berger, Carpenter.
So is there any discussion on when graduation is or what they're doing?
We're gonna keep it on the same date. And we're gonna finalize the plan, but, we're gonna need to talk a little bit about what that looks like. Justin was having a senior class meeting last night, but what really that we're leaning toward, or if, I mean, we'd give up a whole day. But he'd like to do a videographer, which we already have in place, and us do our normal thing. You know, you say you always have to speak, I have to speak, do all that, let our kids speak, get all that. We would actually set the stage up in the gym and bring one kid plus 4 in at a time. And the videographer will take, and then at the end, he'll put it all together. Now, literally, Ed, you could come in and be doing your thing and leave. You don't have to be there all day if you don't want. So we would never have more than 10 people at any one time, and literally one kid would go through. We've already talked about how we block off the parking lot, how we keep crowds from assembling, and literally we got an entrance strategy and an exit. So literally you'd come in the front doors, come into the gym, do your thing, walk, get your diploma, go out the doors by the kitchen. We do one at a time.
Is that approved by the state?
Well, we haven't submitted our plan yet, but it will be.
it was.
So we were there off the stage?
You could choose to be there or not be there. I think it gets a little problematic with the entire board to keep the number to 10.
Maybe just have one board member
You
or
could
have a
rotate, you know what I
superintendent.
mean? You could come in, Ed could maybe come in and do his speech and do the first hour, and then, you know what I mean? We could just rotate you through so you'd each have that probably makes, you know what I mean? Yeah.
Was there any plan of, just thumbs outside? I've heard, different places maybe doing some outside. Would that give you any more?
We like outside, but I don't think we can, I think it's a little harder to manage the traffic.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Trying to avoid people from
Yeah,
running them up.
yeah.
And actually, if you think about it, if you just use that like that front drive, and I pull up, I come in, I go out, and we just keep, I think we can manage that a little better. Because what we would do is we'd block the road off by the kitchen, and we'd block the back parking lot off. The only thing we would have is that front circle.
To me, like a drive-through wedding,
Kinda.
drive-through graduation.
Yeah. Hey, I wanted to tell you something too, especially.
Should we,
Yeah, we're good, yeah. This project is obviously a lot of money. You think about it, our design and engineering fees were less than 10%. And Kleinger's, just so you know, when you see Kleinger's, they also did our track design. They are considered to be the best civil engineering and athletic complex group in the country. They're located in Cincinnati. So to get that at the price we, and keep our fees less than 10%.